Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today we're talking about the best midlife resolution, the best one decision your future self will thank you for. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle, where we talk about how to get unstuck, clear, and excited about your next chapter, especially if you're over 50 and feeling like life is just way too precious to keep waiting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach, Midlife Mentor, and I am so glad to be here with you again. If you're new here, thanks so much for popping in. It's a great time of year to think about what being a woman in the middle means to you and what you want it to mean to you. Today, we're talking about New Year's resolutions in midlife. And if you just groaned, I actually think I heard you. I totally get it. This whole topic can be a drag and it brings up so much. So many smart, capable women over 50 think the same sort of stuff. Resolutions. It can just bring up the whole dramatic mental playlist. What's the point? I never stick with them. I'll do great for 2 weeks and then I quit. It's just too hard. I'm too tired. It'll never work. And I don't even know what I want. Can you relate to any of that? I sure can. And when you think those thoughts, you don't feel inspired. You probably feel flat or defeated or already behind. So today we're going to do this differently. No shame, no unrealistic transformation fantasy, no new year, new you type of pressure. Instead, I'm going to give you a midlife approach that's surprisingly motivating, very doable, and honestly, kind of comforting. It's one simple idea. So here's the resolution I want to offer you. Do something this year that your future self will thank you for. That's it. That is the whole premise. And I want you to feel the difference between these two statements. So a typical resolution would be something like this. I want to exercise 4 times a week. A future self resolution would be something like this. My future self will thank me for moving my body consistently this year. So the equivalent resolution would be, I want to move my body consistently this year. One feels like a rule, the other feels like care. One feels like a should, the other feels like a gift. And this matters in midlife so much because a lot of us have a complicated relationship with time. We don't always say it out loud, but we have these unsupervised thoughts. Things like, it's too late, I missed my chance, I'm running out of time, I should be further ahead by now. I have that kind of stuff all the time. Now I can catch it way more than I could 10 years ago, but I absolutely think that stuff, and I have a feeling you do too. Those thoughts can quietly steal your momentum. But when you bring in your future self, you stop spiraling and start choosing. You're no longer pushing yourself with guilt. Instead, you're leading yourself with wisdom. Here's the thing. I'm basically the coach who hands out permission slips for a living. I think that you may have heard that episode just a couple ago. I'll put a link to it in the show notes if you missed it. But you may know that I have a special wand that helps make the point. It's a blue fuzzy wand that has a regular guest spot on my group coaching calls in the Women in the Middle Academy. So you're not the only one struggling with giving yourself permission to do what you want. Change requires permission, not perfection. This is important to remember when you take on new goals. Your future self will thank you for trying something new or moving in that direction that you care so much about, not that you're perfect at it. I am constantly doing this with mindful doodling. You may know I love mindful doodling. I was trained as a certified Zentangle teacher. I love it. Now, my work is imperfect. And of course, I could be hard on myself about it. I catch myself with negative thoughts on occasion about my ability. But my future self is so freaking happy that I'm saying yes to more creativity and especially doing things that help me relax, and mindful doodling does that for me. Also, stay tuned. You're going to be hearing much more about mindful doodling in the near future. And I know that another thing comes up when it comes to resolutions that I want to talk to. So let's take a minute and be very practical and talk about what are some of the problems with resolutions. A lot of resolutions fail for very predictable reasons, especially for women over 50. So you might pick a goal that sounds pretty good, but maybe it's not really emotionally true for you. Or, this one's really common, you might set a goal that's just way too big or too vague or too all or nothing. That usually doesn't work. Maybe you rely on motivation instead of designing a system. I've seen that a million times before. And maybe you ignore the midlife reality factors, like the stuff that is probably going on in your life now, or it happened a lot recently, or maybe it's coming up. But you know what I'm talking about. Energy changes. Maybe you have menopause or perimenopause symptoms. Maybe you're involved in some pretty serious caregiving responsibilities, or maybe you're making a work transition, something that you're leaving. Maybe you're starting something new. Perhaps there's some relationship shifts going on, kids coming, kids going, and the fact that you don't have the same bandwidth you probably had 10, 15 years ago either. So the goal isn't to become a different person. The goal is to become more you on purpose. So you can see all these issues are so relevant, and we have to keep reframing this whole resolution concept, especially at our age. So now let's move on to some simple steps to move forward with your future self-approved midlife resolutions. Let's try this for a change. Specifically, I'm going to give you 5 steps to think about. So here we go. Step number 1, pick one area. Keep it focused. Choose one lane for the next 90 days. And I know what you probably want to do is you get all excited and you want to do a whole bunch of things better or with more passion or with more commitment. But what I'm suggesting is to just pick one lane for the next couple of months. So here's some lanes to consider. The first one is self-care. So that might have to do with health and energy. Here's another one. What about relationships and connection? And when it comes to work, or what I like to call the way you make a professional contribution, when it comes to purpose and that contribution, let's stay in that lane for 90 days. Or what about home, your environment, simplicity, that kind of thing? That's a lane. And then here's another one, the lane of joy and play and creativity. So those are 5 lanes that you can consider. Don't be an overachiever. I know that's what you want to do. But that means don't do all 5 at once. You can get to them, but for this little exercise, don't do it all at once. Do one and just let that be enough to start. Midlife does not have to be the time for a self-imposed boot camp. It really doesn't. Okay, now step number 2, ask the future self thank you question. Say something like this to yourself. 3 months from now, my future self will thank me for blank. And let the blank be something that creates relief. Really think about that. Not impressiveness, but relief. So examples might be something like this. Maybe you want to go to bed at a consistent time, or maybe that time is 10 minutes earlier than what it normally is. Maybe you want to strengthen your legs and balance. Perhaps you want to go for a walk after lunch on most days. Maybe you want to start drinking water before coffee. What about saying no to one obligation that's just draining you? Or what about you just go ahead and book that appointment that you keep avoiding? Maybe you want to have one real friend date, not on Messenger, not in text, but like actually get together with somebody once a week, even if it's for coffee. And maybe you want to work on creating something 10 minutes a day. Those are just some ideas, but do you see how it feels like, you're not going crazy? You're just doing something that your future self will thank you for that creates relief, but it doesn't have to be a big giant deal. Okay, step number 3, turn it into a tiny commitment so it actually sticks. Now, this is where so many of us go wrong. We want to pick something noble, something that might be unlivable, something that feels big or really hard. So here's the rule. Make it so small that you can do it on a bad day. I like to think about it as making it so small that it would be almost like you might even feel ridiculous to think that you couldn't do it because you know you really can. So make it so small that you could even do it on a bad day, because we all have bad days. Times when maybe hormones are not cooperating, or a lack of sleep, maybe stress, maybe caregiving, maybe work, maybe just life. Sometimes all of these things make life just a bit more challenging. So let's think about tiny commitment. Instead of exercising 4 times a week, maybe you want to just walk 10 minutes after breakfast. Instead of eating perfectly, maybe just try to eat more vegetables at lunch. And what about instead of meditating for 20 minutes a day, how about if you just take 5 slow breaths before checking your phone? Let's really keep it simple. What about instead of I'm going to work on writing my book, maybe just try to write 3 sentences a day, or set your timer for 15 minutes a day, something like that. You're not proving anything. You're just building trust with yourself. You're basically learning how to have your own back. And step number 4, this one really helps with follow through. It's kind of like a plan that if something happens, then I will do this. So call it like an if-then kind of a plan. It's brain friendly. I think of it as a brain hack. So if this happens, then I will do this. If X happens, I will do Y. Plan in advance. This is a plan in advance. You're anticipating obstacles. Okay? So for example, if I'm too tired to work out, then I'm going to stretch for 3 minutes. And personally, I have a stretch that I actually love it. And when I remember to do it, it just feels so good. So it's not just that you're going to stretch 3 minutes. Maybe you know exactly what you're going to do. So if I'm too tired to work out, then I'm going to do X, I'm going to stretch. If I skip a day, for whatever it is, then I'm going to restart tomorrow with the tiniest version. So you can make that as specific as you want. But the idea is if I skip a day, it doesn't have to be game over, right? If I skip a day, it doesn't have to be game over. So what about this one? If I feel resistance, then I'll ask, what's the easiest next step? Isn't that a different way to approach it? It's not a grind. And this one, if I'm overwhelmed, then I'll do the thing for just 2 minutes. Do you see what I mean? This if-then idea completely removes the drama and prevents the classic I missed a day so I blew it spiral. And we all know when you feel like you fall off the wagon, it can really create like a rabbit hole. So this removes the drama and prevents that. Step 5, make yourself real. This is just going to be a quick little visualization. Close your eyes for a moment, not if you're driving while you're listening to the podcast though, please. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine 3 months from now. So you're in your home. It's a normal day. You don't need to be on vacation under a palm tree. Nothing magical needs to be happening, just a normal day. But you did the thing. You did the thing most days. It doesn't matter if you didn't do it every day. You did the thing most days. Now ask yourself, what's different? How do you feel in your body? What are you proud that you followed through on? And what do you trust about yourself now? Now ask your future self, what do you want me to remember when I don't feel like it, when I don't wanna? And write down the answer, 1 sentence. And this little exercise in the answer to that question, that 1 sentence, that, my friend, becomes your anchor. But Susie, you might be asking, what about when I feel resistance? Let's look at that too, because there's definitely going to be a time when you just don't want to, when you just don't feel like it, and you just are at the brink of letting it go. Resistance is important to talk about because of course it's going to show up. Resistance doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Resistance means you're doing something new. That's it. So here are 3 midlife friendly ways to work on resistance. The first thing to do is call it something, give it a label. Be aware of the feeling that you're feeling, what does resistance feel like to you, and call it out for what it is. You can think something like this. There's that feeling again. This is the part where my brain wants to stay comfortable and not do the new thing. Like, just call it out for what it is. Here's another thing you can do. Remember that this is a normal part of change. You can think something like this. Of course, this feels uncomfortable. I'm changing a pattern. I'm changing a pattern that I've done for a long time. And then the next thing to do is to go small. This has come up a few times now. Go tiny. I often refer to this as the minimum baseline approach. So if you're a longtime listener, you may have heard that before. But the idea is to do the smallest version of the thing. Bite off a teeny tiny bit of the bigger goal just to get started or to keep going. This counts too, okay? So here is an important midlife truth. You don't need to feel motivated to be consistent. You just need a plan for the days you're not motivated. Now let me repeat this because this is huge, and I remember so clearly the first time I heard this. It was about 10 years ago. I was taking notes. My mind exploded when I heard this. Like literally, I had to put my pen down, and I just sat there for a minute and processed it. You don't need to feel motivated to be consistent. You need a plan for the days you're not motivated. That's it, my friend. This is where I typically wave my wand and I say, my friend, you're allowed to do this imperfectly. You're allowed to start small. You're allowed to restart. And even though you might feel uncomfortable and it might feel like you're letting yourself off the hook or that you're cheating or something, it's not true. Whatever you decide is fine. The most important thing is that you thoughtfully decide how to handle resistance in advance. Now, here comes some inspiration. Get ready. I want to give you some mini future self resolution ideas because I know you may not have that much experience with small goals like this. So if you're looking for ideas, here are a few mini resolutions your future self might just thank you for. Strength training twice a week, even 10 minutes counts. More sleep consistency. A 10-minute daily walk. Less screen time at night. Scheduling overdue health appointments. Creating a simple morning routine. One connection ritual per week, and that can be with a friend, a sibling, a neighbor. Decluttering one pile or drawer a week. A creativity practice like doodling, and as I mentioned, stay tuned for an exciting announcement about something coming real soon. Saying no to one recurring obligation that drains you. Going to the miscellaneous sock pile and hunting for a few pairs. And speaking of pairs, how about also going to your underwear drawer and throwing out a few bad ones? And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we refer to those as pathetic panties, and it's time for them to go. I'll put a link in the show notes to an episode about this as well, because many of us midlife gals could use a little extra support in this particular drawer. Anyway, pick one, make it tiny, make it kind. Okay, so if you take nothing else from today, take this. Your future self is not judging you. She's rooting for you, and she's begging you to choose one thing that you can realistically commit to starting now. If this idea of listening to your future self resonated, and you're realizing you don't just want inspiration, you want support actually following through, that's exactly why I created the Women in the Middle Academy. The Academy is a year-long coaching experience for women over 50 who don't want to drift through this chapter. They want to live intentionally. We focus on clarity, mindset, follow through, and learning how to think on purpose so your days reflect what truly matters to you now, not who you were 10 or 20 years ago. If you're ready to stop saying someday and start building a life your future self will genuinely thank you for, you can learn more at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. Your future self is already cheering you on. And my friend, here is something you can also do right away. Take 2 minutes today and write this sentence down. 3 months from now, my future self will thank me for blank. Then make it tiny and begin. That's it for this episode. Here is to doing midlife on purpose. I hope you feel inspired to create resolutions that your future self will thank you for. Thanks so much for listening to the Women in the Middle show. My focus as your regret-proofing midlife coach is to help you waste less valuable time and get on with the good stuff. Remember, being the queen of your brain domain is the best way to be. It's time to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating the happiness, excitement, joy, and fulfillment that you crave. As I mentioned, reach out if you'd like to talk about coaching together. I've got several options that might be a good fit for you, especially the Women in the Middle Academy. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's also something your future self will be grateful for. Head over to www.talktosusie.com. Also, there's a new midlife quiz waiting for you as well. If you want to discover what's been keeping you stuck and learn what your future self is craving, go to www.midlifequiz.com. For show notes and links, go to susierosenstein.com and click on the podcast tab and look for episode 440. I'll also be adding the links to the other episodes that I mentioned that support this one, and it'll all be in the show notes. And you'll also see a link there for my other show, The Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, which is all about the reality of running your business when you're a midlife gal. It's also on iTunes, Spotify, and all the podcast places. Let's do this, ladies. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.